All right, what's up guys? Derek here, aka Mr. Enchanted. Now I just wanted to quickly make another video in regards to a recent tournament that happened in Germany that had 222 players. And so that tournament was called, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, but it was at Battle Bear. We'll just say the 222 player tournament at Battle Bear. And there is a full top 8 deck list. So this is something that I wanted to go over. So in first place, we have, well, what do you know? It's Mr. DKP playing red-blue. And this looks like the exact same list that he ran in DLC Melbourne, I think. There was 3 Talas, 3 Hirams, 4 Pirates. So yeah, this looks pretty much identical list. So this is the red-blue burn variant, I guess you could say, of this deck, with heavy emphasis on ramping, then getting Maui Shark out early to recur your actions, and then you got 4 Super Goose, 4 Pirate's Life, 4 McDuck Manners to just get all the lore in the world. And even things like Develop Your Brain gets you lore when you have a bunch of Maui Sharks out, for example, as the passive ability of Maui Shark gives you lore. Now, I have seen this deck pop up a lot on Lorcana, but I feel like it's not as easy to play as some people may think. Obviously, a lot of people will imitate and copy success. They probably watched the DLC Melbourne stream and saw DKP just obliterate the competition playing this deck. And it was sort of like, oh, slam down a manor, use Goofy or Super Goof to challenge into something, get 2 lore, be prepped to clear the board, Shark to recur all your actions, then Pirate's Life to victory. And it seemed not that hard to play. However, playing against it, it's obviously not as strong as if DKP were to pilot it. As I remember hearing in a podcast or an interview that he had well over 100 reps of this deck list before actually playing at the DLC. So again, you can't just copy someone's deck list and expect the same results. And so this deck obviously is rising in popularity. Just whenever a certain deck wins, a lot of people like to just copy, paste, and run with it. And so I've tried this deck, just to kind of play with it, sort of learn a couple of the lines, and I don't enjoy it. I'm someone who has never really liked the whole red-blue playstyle. I think it's because I mostly dislike the popsicle on 1, ramp on 2, Hiram on 3, and you're kind of just like not really developing the board much. And if your opponent gets off to an early aggro start with, like, say, Curse Merfolks or Smees or Piglets, and they just start YOLO questing, all of a sudden you fall really far behind. If you don't get your board clears like B-Prep or something like a Pirate's Life to stall your opponent out from victory, there's a lot of times you just quickly lose a game. And for me, that's just, I don't know, it's not fun at all. And so this is a deck that I know I just don't enjoy playing, which is the main reason why I don't really pilot red-blue that often, because if I'm not having fun playing the deck and I'm not enjoying what the cards that I'm actually using, then I don't know, it's just not fun for me to play. But obviously, red-blue is the strongest deck in the meta right now as we near the end of Azurite Sea. And on top of that, if we go back and look at second place, we have Moyen, who is also on red-blue. Now, this list, I think, is very similar to DKP's. At first glance, there is 1 more Tala, 1 less Brawl, and what is the other difference? There's some other difference here. Oh, 1 more Popsicle. No, Popsicle's the same, because DKP also had 4. So what is the difference here? This is 60 cards, right? Let's see. Yeah, 60 cards. So what am I missing? He swapped out a Brawl, added a Tala, added a Sisu. He got rid of he dropped the 2 Let It Goes. So he dropped the 2 Let It Goes, added a big Sisu, added a Scar, dropped a Brawl, and added a Grammatala. So he added a lot more top-end board clear and 1 more extra 4-drop. I guess this is good because The Tala gives you another body to sing the How Far I'll Go, and you lose a brawl and you lose to Let It Go. That's interesting. So you're dropping more like mid-rangey removal, hard removal, for a lot more top-end heavy removal like Scar and Sisu. So I wonder how this would match up against DKP's list. Now I did watch part of the stream where they did play, and I saw this one part where I believe DKP had 2 sharks out, and he was just using Develop Your Brain and Visions, and he was just digging through his deck for cards, while at the same time just getting that passive lore from the Maui Sharks. And so obviously DKP was able to emerge victorious versus Moyen, and in a pretty much, I guess you can call this a mirror matchup. It's almost the exact same deck list minus 3 different cards, I guess you could say, or 3 different variations, which is the 1 extra Tala, Sisu, and Scar. So yeah, if you're a big red-blue lover, this is probably a great top 2 decks for you. Now, this is what the most interesting part of this tournament was, the 3rd place deck. And you can call this green-blue, Bleen, bend to my will, or whatever you want to call it, the mass discard deck. And I'm actually really happy to see that this deck performed really well in a field of 222 players. So, people have been trying a lot of green-blue recently, and it seemed sort of like a gimmicky deck, but as people have refined the list and improved it through repetition and strengthened the lines, this is actually a legit deck. And whenever you play against this deck and your opponent gets to around 6 ink, things get a little sweaty, as normally in a red-blue deck, for example, you get worried at 6 because Be Prepared is coming on 7, which wipes your board. But against this deck, Bend to My Will is coming on 7, and you're losing your whole hand. And when that happens, it's pretty much game over. And so I'm super glad to see a deck like this perform really well. Now, in terms of this list is actually a pretty spicy, as there's 3 of the 4-drop Hades, which is just a vanilla 3/6 body, which is super fascinating because I have seen some lists run the McDuck, is it Scrooge McDuck? The uninkable 5/5 body. Now, maybe the uninkability of that card posed some problems, or maybe this guy just preferred having an inkable 3/6, as a 3/6 body will usually trade 2 for 1. Maybe you take out a Calhoun and a Smee, or Ursula Deceiver of All, or something like that, and it just can live, as not many things can do 6 damage outside of Maui's. And so that's super interesting as well. Hades can be used as another singer for How Far I'll Go. But normally in this deck, your main concern on 4 is to try to get out the Muses, as this is a card that can really stall out your opponent and get you through that early to mid game, as this is the weakness of this deck, is that it struggles versus anything aggro. Anything low to the ground, anything with Smees and Piglets and Merfolks, or any characters that have Quest for 2, it poses a massive threat to the green-blue deck. So again, you have some interesting 4-drop options here. You got the Tala to scry 2, you got the Hades as a body that can trade 2 for 1, you got Hiram, your draw engine, and you got Muses to bounce a bunch of stuff and stall the game out. So obviously your turn 1 plays, you're looking for Popsicle Ice block. Turn 2, you're looking for your ramp. You got 4 T-Pos, 4 sails. And then from there it says, oh yeah, and there's 2 1-jump aheads. I didn't even see that. So this guy really didn't want to miss ramp on 2. Wow. Okay, so now I get it. So he's really valuing the ramp on 2 to get out a 4-drop. So this is the main idea here. So you got, how many 4-drops? We have 2 Talas, 3 Hades, and 4 Hiram, and 4 Muses. And is that it? That looks like it, right? So that's 13 4-drops for the bodies. And then you have 10 cards that can ramp you on 2. 4 T-Pos, 2 1-jumps, and 4 sails. Wow. And then you can use those 4-drops to sing How Far I'll Go for some extra ramp. To really accelerate your curve. Super fascinating deck. And then, of course, we have the big Clarabelle to refill your hand, strike a good match to dig for those cards, Mother Knows Best, and You're Welcome for board clears in conjunction with the Muses, just bounce and clear things. Under the Sea to send all the genies to the bottom of the deck. And of course, Lucky Dime Tamatoa is your win con, basically. So pretty cool, super interesting. There's no Peter Pans in this list. There's no green John Silvers. There's no Scrooge McDucks. So super cool to this guy, and props to Max K3 for running this blue-green deck in a field of over 200 players and making top 4. Now the other top 4 deck was right here, Amber Steel, and looks like Diggy Hole. Yep, a pretty standard, no, maybe not standard. You got Chen Pose in here. We got the DeCandio Diggy Hole deck. We got the 3 Happies, 4 Docks in conjunction with the Mines. Lilo's Rapunzel's, John Silver to prevent challenges, Big Cindy, and 3 Chen Pose instead of Kita. I think that seems like the only change here, as everything else seems pretty standard. I believe Big Kita was the more popular 5-drop in this deck, as there was a character that you just drop the Kita, give -3 strength to everything, and it was sort of like a way to stall out your opponent for a turn while all your characters quest to victory. And aside from that, pretty standard Diggy Hole deck. There's not too much to really talk about. If anyone has been playing locals recently, you definitely have run into this deck, as it is probably one of the most popular decks and one of the most successful decks in the set 6 meta, in my opinion. So moving on from that, we got the top 8 decks. And in top 8, we have another red-blue. Now this one looks way more traditional. Okay, so we have the baby Sisus in this one, 2 baby Sisus, 4 big Sisus. Oh, wow. Okay, so really valuing the character-based board clear. Back on Maui's, 3 Maui's and 3 Maui Sharks, 1 Hideaway to get rid of those pesky McDuck Manors, and I guess libraries, if you're facing any Amethyst decks. Down to 3 Brawls. That's tough. Whenever I play red-blue, I feel like Brawl is such a valuable card, especially if you do have Ice Block, and this guy has 4 Ice Blocks. So I don't know how cutting down to 3 Ice Blocks works, but I guess it does for this guy. 3 How Far It Goes, 1 Let It Go, 2 Pirate's Life, and only 1 Be Prepared. So really heavily relying on the Maui Shark to bring back the Be Prepared if you really need it. Well, actually not really, because he does run 4 big Sisus. So I guess the Be Prepared is not as necessary since you are running 4 Ice Blocks. Wow, that's a lot. 4 Ice Blocks, 2 Vitalispheres for the Maui Sharks, and of course the 1 Lucky Dime. What else did I miss? 2 Big Dragons, 4 Tamatoas. Yeah, so pretty standard-ish or more traditional red-blue list. Usually most of these lists run 3 Ice Blocks, 4 Brawls, I want to say, and usually at least 2 B Preps. So I guess really relying on the big Sisu to be his finisher, clearer of aggro decks. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I guess you can Ice Block all of the 3 attack Smees and such like that to play the big Sisu and just wipe the board. So this was a red-blue that made top 8. Now let's see the other top 8 decks. We have good old Ruby-amethyst. So this looks another pretty standard-ish list. Okay, only 2 Diablos. Okay, that's interesting. So we've cut down from the 12 1-drops to only 10. So 4 Chernobyls, 4 Brooms, and adding the 2 Diablos for 10 total 1-drops. We have the standard Flynn Rider Sisu package on 2 and 3. We got the foxes, snakes, 2 crabs, goats, rabbits, all standard stuff. Okay, so no genie. So we're going back to rabbits. So again, a more traditional type of list. Down to 2 Elsa, 3 Mauis, a 2-2 split on the ladies, which I always like, 1 big Sisu, 4 Brawls, 4 Friends, 4 B Preps, and 2 Libraries. Yeah, so nothing too spicy here. Pretty standard-ish Ruby Sapphire list. I guess nowadays most people have been leaning towards rabbits instead of genies, as now people have learned to play around genie or counter genie, and rabbit is just way more valuable because once rabbit gets cleared, obviously you draw a card. And I guess always Ruby-amethyst players are going to be playing around with like what is the correct number of 1-drops. And back in the day, it was always 8. Then people dropped down to 6. Then we're up to 12. And then now we're down to 10 in this deck. So I guess the variation of 1-drops gives you that wiggle room to modify the type of top end that you want to play. Maybe if you are like Ed in the NA Continentals, he was running the 4 Tremaines, but that again was in a very heavy Maui Shark meta. But also, Madame Medusa is a great card as well. And I always enjoy the 2-2 split as it gives you a little bit more flexibility and versatility. Down to 2 Elsas is interesting, as I usually see 3. And then what else? 4 B preps, and oh yeah, those are 2 libraries. Yeah, so nothing too crazy here, just sort of a more standardish Ruby-amethyst. And our other top 8 deck, we had Blue Steel, Sapphire-steel, which was, okay, we got the Kiwi Birds, Harlan Sweet in the house. Again, this is another deck that was incredibly popular in this store champs for the Scar. I saw this deck all over the place in my store champs. And it also performed really well. There were numerous times where Kiwi Birds made top cut, it made top 8. And for good reason too. It's a solid, strong deck that was tested quite vigorously by Harlan Sweet, as he is a Blue Steel YouTuber who sort of, I believe he made this deck or invented it with a friend. I can't remember the other guy's name, but him and some other guy, they came up with this deck. And they really popularized it in the meta, and it spread basically everywhere. As you know, I'm in Canada, and I saw this deck all over the place. Now, in terms of the list, nothing too crazy here. I guess you do have 2 Babooms. That's interesting. Only 3 Docs. I always love having 4 Docs. Doc is my boy, one of my favorite cards in Steel. We got the 4 Sticky Mickey, 4 Robin Hood. We have the Robin Hood package, 4 Calhoun, Smeeze, Ron the Alice. Okay, we got Chen Po. Chen Po is super interesting. Chen Po with Cogsworth is a nightmare. And obviously the main line of Alice on 3 to give Pluto on 4, or give Pluto Ward on 4, was sort of like the main line in this deck. And then also if Alice lives, you can drop the Gantu and give Gantu Ward. And then you got McDuck Manners to close out the game for some more lore, and you got some 3 strength and 2 Baboom for some removal. And there's good old Scrooge McDuck, 5/5 body for 4, that quest for 2. And of course the Baymax, if you have the Baymax promo from Continentals, this would be a great deck where you can actually play it. So again, nothing too out of sorts here, nothing super spicy. This is more of just like a copy paste of Harlan Sweet's deck. And I guess at this point, it's just up to personal preference. Like the main idea of playing the Alice with the Pluto and the Gantu and Robin Hood, that's all pretty standard. And you have a couple, let's say, 3 or 4 spots you can kind of flex and move things around. And those are probably just based on personal preference, based on how you like to play the game or how you like to pilot the deck. So glad to see that, Kiwi Birds is thriving and still doing well in a field of 200 plus players. Now moving on to our last deck that made top 8 was, is it Traditional Steel Song? And it pretty much is Traditional Steel Song. So this is a deck that sort of fell out of favor this set, as a lot of Steel Song players were, I don't know if they were changing or switching over to Diggy Hole, or maybe there's just so many, the sheer influx of people playing the Diggy Hole deck kind of made me forget about Steel Song, as I didn't even really see it that much at all. But anyways, let's check out this list. We are on the, 2 Daisies with 4 Robins and 4 Cindys. So that's 10 1-drops. The usual Smee, Ursula, Ariel package with Gaston. I'm a huge fan of Gaston, especially in Traditional Steel Song. I just feel like I know Ariel, you want the value from her, you know, you get that song, but man, the times that Gaston just sticks onto turn 4 is, I don't know what it is. I know the only difference is that Ariel can get brawled and Gaston can't. You know, of course, unless there's ice block, as they both have 3 health, so they both get removed by the same steel removal. But for whatever reason, that Gaston just sticks so much better, and it allows you to really get off your whole new world. Now, in terms of spiciness, there's no Naveen's here, which is something that I like. I feel like Naveen is kind of overrated, as if you play Naveen for 4 to sing Whole New World, you don't have any ink left to play anything. So that's why I'm not the biggest fan of Naveen. I feel like Naveen is best used when you use him with Zeus. You know, you put down a 3/3 body, Zeus something, and then the next turn you have a Singer 6 for your Whole New World or whatever you want to do. And then we're on 2 Chenpos. Okay, that's cool. And for our higher end cards, we got 1 Ariel, 1 Tink, and there's another one of World's Greatest Criminal Minds. Okay, so we got the one of 4 Tamatoa or whatever, those big, even Pluto. You can use World's Greatest Criminal Minds on Pluto. That's happened to me once before, and it kind of caught me off guard. So yeah, nothing too crazy about this list. Seems pretty standard. I guess Chenpo maybe coming back. I'm more of I prefer Pluto, if I'm being honest, but what else we got? The big Ariel is devastating. If you've ever played against this card, whenever it gets out or whenever it shifts onto the board, just the ability to ping from this card just clears everything. And usually the big tank, this is usually Big Cindy, right? So a couple little different picks and variations that this guy made to Steel Song. But again, traditional Steel Song, it has its, I don't know, essential 50 cards, 50, 55-ish cards. And you can kind of just build it out how you like. You can put in Sven's, you can put in Naveen's. There's a whole bunch of things you can kind of do a Steel Song. But basically, you still have the traditional or more fundamental core cards, like the Cindy's, the Smees, Ursula's, Ariel's, Gaston's, Pete's, Robin Hood's with the Storm, Strength, Zeus, Whole New World package. And so, again, a lot of these decks, the changes, it comes to more personal preference and how you want to play the game. But congrats to this player, you know, playing traditional Steel Song and making top 8 in a field of 222, you know, is no joke. And so that's pretty much it. As a rest, there's a bunch of top 16 decks. Oh, again, double Diggy Hole here, more Steel Song, more, wow, see, this is what I mean about Diggy Hole. If you haven't played against Diggy Hole, then man, you haven't been to locals lately. Is there anything else that's interesting here? Oh, blue steel items? Do you have an Oswald deck? Anything super spicy? Nothing crazy. This looks like a more traditional blue steel Jim Hawkins package. Yeah, nothing too crazy here. And a green purple made top 16, and that's pretty much it. So super cool to see that blue green was able to come 3rd place in a tournament of over 200 players, and that's something that I love to see. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Just a little different video. From time to time, I like to review these deck lists from big tournaments. You know, the ones where there's only like 10 to 20 players, I don't really see too much value in that. But whenever there is a full deck list revealed for a tournament of, say, you know, 50 plus players, 100 plus, or even like this, 200 plus players, I always love to just take a look and see what people are playing, what decks are successful, and what made top cut. And so it's super cool to see that, you know, again, more of the same, red, blue, and amber steel kind of dominating the set 6 meta, and DKP is on top once again with back-to-back, you know, pretty big and significant tournament wins. So congrats to him. So that's pretty much it for me. I think I'll wrap this one up. Hopefully I am planning to do a lot more videos on this channel. Obviously, I'm going to be centering and focusing the content on this channel around green steel, as again, I'm primarily a green steel player who, you know, I'll venture off from time to time into other decks, but in terms of the competitive aspect of Lorcana, I try to focus on green steel and be the best possible player I can be. So expect a lot more videos, I guess, on that color combination in the future. And then I'll throw in these deck review videos from time to time whenever I can. So that's pretty much it. Let me know in the comment section down below if you enjoyed this type of video. Subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next video.